Don't be zoning out on us and spinning around in your chair.
Don't be rolling your eyes in the back of your head. Don't be staring at the ceiling.
Welcome to the Pretense of Justice with hosts Carmen, Roland, Sonia, Tamika, and DeMarcus, where we discuss legal and current events, controversial issues, and all things justice as we advocate for injustice. Let the justice begin. We are live.
Hello, everyone, to the Pretense of Justice. I am so happy to be here today, and I'm so happy to have our team with us. And Roland, he is in San Diego at a meeting, so he will be jumping in at some point or another. We have with us Miss Sonia, we have Mr. DeMarcus, we have Miss Tamika, and we have Miss Rhonda, our podcast director, and we have a special guest this evening, and his name is Mr. Josh Rosenburg, and he is a student at the University of Virginia who joined Life After Release, Courtwatch PG, and he trained under me for 2 years. He was in the 12th grade when we first met. He's in his second year of college now. And he is a prison industrial complex abolitionist working towards the liberation of all people. And with that said, do any of our hosts, Sonia, do you want to say hello? DeMarcus?
Hello, Josh. I'm glad you were able to join us.
Welcome, Josh.
Welcome,
hey everyone, I'm
glad
glad to be on. I've known Carmen for I guess 2 years now, which is crazy. And we've done a lot of stuff together, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Absolutely. And Josh is an example of, you can be in high school and court watch and also find your passion at such a young age. And I'm so honored to have worked with him. And now he's in his second year of college, and his kitty cats are my babies. And I am so glad to have you here today, Josh. And if you want to go ahead and kick us off, that'd be great.
Sure. So I don't entirely know what we'll be talking about, but I think we're here because I joined Courtwatch PG in the fall of 2020. So we were a few months into the pandemic and a few months after the eruption of the George Floyd protests, the absolute calamity that basically overtook the country, and just the revolution that began essentially at that point, or not began, but I guess continued and erupted to some extent. And so during that time, I was reading a lot more about the police, the purpose of policing, the criminal legal system, punishment system, whatever you prefer. And I figured I needed to do something. I couldn't just keep reading. And so I had some help. I talked to an abolitionist organization, and I asked them if they had any contacts for abolitionist groups in the DC area, because I was based out of Northern Virginia at the time. I'm in Charlottesville now, and they recommended Courtwatch PG. And so I sent an email. Carmen responded a little bit later, and I got started. And that was the very beginning of Courtwatch PG, because I'm sure the rest of you have all seen what Courtwatch PG has become. Probably over 80 members, tons of people in every committee. At that point, it was mostly Carmen court watching every single day. And maybe 10, 12 of us who did all the committee work, who were just very dedicated. All of us had a lot of time because of the pandemic, which made it a lot easier. And we were able to spread out the responsibilities. So Carmen wasn't doing literally every single thing. And so I think part of what we'll be talking about is how that time and that work that we did with Courtwatch PG helped develop my abolitionist politic and my understanding of the criminal punishment system.
And I guess just, Josh, this is Rhonda. That's really, really fascinating to me that the George Floyd event, and correct me if if I don't have it right, that was really what sparked you to kind of bring awareness to how imbalanced the justice system was?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. At the time, I mean, I like to read, but I hadn't really thought a ton about like politics specifically beyond like just what I read in the Washington Post, I guess. And so I hadn't really thought about like, the purpose of policing, what it accomplishes, who benefits from it. I just sort of accepted that it's, a routine part of a functioning society, I guess. And I think that a lot of people had to reconsider what they believed about how we should address harm, how we should dole out punishment, whether punishment is an adequate response to harm, and what it means for someone to actually take accountability and receive justice after being wronged. And so that was a moment when it made me fully reconsider how I understood both the world at the time, but also the world that's possible. Because abolition is just as much about taking things away. I mean, obviously, abolitionists believe that there shouldn't be prisons, there shouldn't be police. There shouldn't be like ICE, for example. But abolition is a generative project. That's what's so important about it. Abolition is about presence, not absence, is what Ruth Wilson Gilmore says. So abolition is about building up all the systems in our communities that we need to survive, that there's no funds for because 50% of most municipal budgets go to the police, right? So things like food, housing, healthcare, all those things are the lack or the absence of those things, I guess, is actively killing people. And so I think that there's room within the imagination to find a better world that can be created with an abolitionist politic.
So wait a minute. How did you get so like I know, Rhonda, you're about to date yourself because he's a sweet baby. But how'd you get so activist? It just, that's a lot at your age, and it's a wonderful thing, by the way. Don't get me wrong whatsoever. But just for you, what you just described, going through the entire system, have you always at heart been an activist before the George Floyd situation? Have you always kind of had those world views?
No. And I think that that's actually sort of relevant in this case because it shows that there's really no prerequisite to like changing the way you look at things, right? Like you can read some stuff, you can learn a little bit, and then maybe you read something else based off of that, right? Like that's where it started with me. I didn't read a whole book. I didn't just like jump into reading like an abolitionist book. I didn't have the interest in doing that necessarily. I read an article. I was like, I actually agree with a lot of this. And then I went on Twitter and I saw someone else say something. And I was like, that actually makes a lot of sense. And then they recommended a book or an article. And I read that and I was like, all right, that's pretty cool. So it's a pretty easy path that anyone can take to, transforming their worldview and, what they do about that.
Wow. All right now.
I think for me, I knew nothing about, I had never heard of Courtwatch. So, I've said that before. I never heard of it before. I never heard of abolitionists except Nat Turner or something, back in the day. So I didn't know that people was, living that lifestyle until I met Kiana Johnson, who's the executive director for Life After Release. And she is the one who told me about Courtwatch. And then she, gave me full autonomy to help grow that into what it is today. So, we all have learned so much from her in, being abolitionists or what an abolitionist is, I must say. And what it really means to really being a court watcher and what does that consist of. So I just wanted to share that. And then, as, Josh said, it just kind of took its own like tentacles and started growing and getting bigger and bigger. And then we started creating committees. And then we started, committing, doing all kinds of things. What are some of the committees, Josh, that we create together?
So when I first joined, the first committee I joined was the database committee, which is really funny because I have zero experience with data. I'm still terrible at it. I'm a women, gender, and sexuality studies major because I can't do anything with STEM. I'm much more versed in theory and politics. And I joined that because we didn't have a ton of people to do it. So first I was on the database committee. Then I joined the newsletter committee. We also created the accountability committee. I'm sure I'm forgetting a few others, but it led from there pretty directly into the campaign around the Maryland legislature to get virtual court access enshrined like the following year, which was, I think a pretty radicalizing moment for everyone, but also really valuably mobilized a lot of people, like a lot of people who weren't necessarily super involved in Courtwatch PG, just people who had maybe heard about it in the community and realized that there was a lot of value to someone holding judges and prosecutors accountable, and seeing everything that happens. Because I mean, it's the slogan of Courtwatch PG, right? It's our motto. Justice dies in empty courtrooms, or injustice happens in empty courtrooms. I don't remember the exact phrase, but right, like we were able to make it really clear to people that we had created change, right? Like we had data to show that what we'd done had changed things, and that change would probably stop if we got removed, if we lost online access. I think Carmen could talk a lot more about that and what that campaign was like.
It was very tiresome. It wore me out, and we had to do a lot of lobbying and a lot of speaking in front of the Senate and in front of the delegates, and Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting with elected officials, and it was very, very tiresome. And then here it is, we're getting ready to roll into legislation season again, and it's going to be very, very difficult because, now I'm the chairwoman for advocacy and legislation for the U.S. Attorney for the District of Maryland, the reentry board that we helped create by invite with them. And so it's a lot of federal draft legislation that we are working on. And so it's going to move from state to the federal side. And I'm going to be pretty wore out, and but I'm honored to be in this space. As each day go by, I'm glad that I had the experience of being kidnapped and dragged off to a prison camp. However, I learned so much, and to be able to train others and show others what people go through, behind the wall, and how they come out from behind the wall is a really big thing.
And I guess my question to you, Dr. Carmen, how can, I think it's just absolutely excellent for Josh's story to start in high school. That's like a huge impact. So what advice would you give someone in middle school and high school that wants to make a difference? What advice would you give them? Because I know other work that you do and that you've done. So what would you give someone else advice his age that wants to go on the path that he's going, or is not quite sure, or wants to make a difference in the world?
Well, first of all, an abolitionist, and me, I'm a revolutionist, an activist, a humanitarian. That's something that you are born with. Mm-hmm. You have to be already connected with everyone else on this planet or in this universe in order to care about the next man that's sitting beside you. It's not something that you really can, in my personal opinion, is not something that you really can just one day say, hey, I'm a revolutionist, or I'm an activist, or it doesn't quite work that way, even though maybe people do, but at some point, the real them will come out, if they really are not true humanitarians or are really concerned about a specific group of people that are being abused, or a agenda of people that are being abused or something. That's number one. And number two, is funny because we helping ourselves to transform. I received an email, remember, Tamika, a couple of months ago from an 11th grader. And I'm like, I wonder where he get my email from. And so anyway, we signed up with their school in Bethesda. It's called Bethesda Chevy Chase High School. And so now we're partnered with them. And they are, ready to get started in this work. And they are a year younger than Josh was. And I'm like, well, this is amazing. How did y'all get my information? And so I'm excited about that. And I think the George Floyd thing really did spark something.
Okay.
but is the spark still burning? That's where I go back to, you really got to be born with a passion for people. Because, people marched up and down the streets for, that whole 2020 and into 21. And then what are they doing now? Are they still fighting for, what's right?
Right.
Are they still fighting for what's being done is wrong? Or is it back to, that was a fad and it's back to business as usual? And so that's always my concern. That's why I always listen to what people are saying, and I listen very, very well, and I watch with my first eye.
Gotcha.
And then I know whether I want to throw my pearls to swine or not, because everybody just want to do something just for today and not have longevity in it.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I think Tamika had a question, Josh.
Yeah, well, Tamika, I want to answer your question, but if you don't mind, I'd like to say something really short to what Carmen was talking about, because I agree with a lot of it. And I think a lot of what she said is incredibly valuable. It's incredible to hear about the story of the 11th grader. I didn't even know that. That makes me really happy to hear. The only thing I would possibly disagree with is that you say you have to be born with it. And I don't really know about that. I don't really know whether I believe in innate qualities, but I do believe that there's nothing that necessarily separates one person from being an activist or an organizer, depends on what you want to call yourself, from anyone else. And I draw a lot of inspiration from a lot of other groups who've been doing this work for a lot longer than me. And one group that I was learning about last year, and I find really inspirational, but also really motivational, is a group called MASK, Mothers Against Senseless Killing, based out of Chicago, who after a few years ago, after there was a shooting on one of the most dangerous blocks in Chicago and right in the middle of their neighborhood, a few neighborhood moms decided, and a young woman was shot. A few neighborhood moms decided to start setting up a barbecue and just spend the entire day outside wearing bright pink shirts, and just watching over the neighborhood. And nothing happened that day, right? There's no violence. It was one of the most dangerous spots in Chicago, and they've carried that project forward. And so that group, MASK, continues, as their founder says, to put eyes on the street, interrupt violence and crime, and teach children to grow up as friends rather than enemies. They develop relationships with their neighbors and kids. And the women who started this group weren't incredibly activist types, right, who were radical to begin with. They just saw a problem in their community that they thought they could fix, just by spending more time with their community. And they really did. And I find that incredibly motivational. I think that anyone can create change within their community if they just take the step to do so.
I accept that. Tap on the hand. However, I'm a scholar of metaphysics, Josh. And so we all agreed that on August 22nd, 2022, way before we were born, that we was going to do this show tonight. We all agreed that we were going to do this. So in my studies, and I've read over 1,000 books, and in my studies, we chose what we were going to do before we came here. We chose that we were going to be, the president of the United States. We chose that we was going to, beat our wives or, cheat on our husbands or whatever the situation is. We chose our journey before we got here. So I'm sure I'm going to get some hate mail, but I don't care. That these are my understandings and based on my studies. And we chose all of this. Even George Floyd made a pact that, okay, this is going to happen. My life is going to be sacrificed, and it's going to start a movement.
Yeah, because you surely know a lot about a lot, not to have the passion and the innateness for it. I'm just saying, it's just my humble opinion and my 1 cent. But I'll be quiet. I think Tamika, did you want to address your question to Josh?
Yeah. So basically, hats off to you, Josh. You're just awesome. I think every mom in America wishes they had a son like you. I'm curious to know, what is your major at the university, and how do you plan to take your experience that you've had with Courtwatch PG and Dr. Carmen being there to kind of guide you through this whole process? Where do you see yourself going with that experience in the future?
So I wish I could tell you. That would be really great for me to figure out for myself, but I can walk you through what I figured out so far. And thank you for the nice words. But I'm a women, gender, and sexuality studies student. I'm majoring in that. And what that means is, I mean, it's sort of like a vague major, but it's really about systems of oppression and systems of power and how they interact with each other. And so that is really everything that I started learning about, like at the beginning of the pandemic, after the protests began, and continued learning about with Carmen and everyone else at Courtwatch PG. So that there's really a very direct line in that work. And so I don't know exactly what I'll be doing moving forward. I need to figure out a second major because I don't really know exactly what jobs I'm looking for. But I am looking right now at social work because I think that there's very few things that are more important than just going into the community and actually doing the work. And I think that's something that Carmen does incredibly well with Courtwatch PG. She's just incredibly involved with everyone in Prince George's County. She knows everyone at the courthouse, right? Like they all know her. And so I would like to be able to take these values and essentially what I believe in and put into action by helping vulnerable communities.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. You got to be born with the passion. That's all I'm saying. He said he's social work. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Right on, Josh. From my experience, I learned that, there's 5 different personality types when it comes to activism. You have your organizers, you have your mobilizers, you have your stabilizers, people who keep things stable. You have your activators, the ones who like to get it popping off. And then you have your creators. We need more creators. So thanks for sharing with us. And I pass the mic.
Well, thank you so much, Josh. So I think we're going to move into, Dr. Carmen, did you want to move into the excerpt? And this is just the time we want to remind the family that the book is out. Yes! Pretense of Justice. Woohoo! I got my copy, fam.
Yeah.
Started reading it. First of all, it flows very well. Yeah, it's something that you want to pick it up for sure. It's good from start up to the point where I'm at now, and it's like the anticipation to, oh my God, what's next? But you can pick up a copy, and copies, plural. I encourage you to pick up copies because all proceeds from book sales goes to the nonprofit organization helping ourselves to transform. And it's well worth the purchase. It's an excellent read. So you can get a copy of, and copies, plural, of Pretense of Justice on Amazon.com. You can get it in hard copy, colored, hard copy, black and white, and paperbacks. So I highly, highly encourage you to pick up a copy. That's Dr. Carmen telling her journey, her experience with the injustice system, the injustice that she was served. But what I love about it, she's giving us the background of her upbringing. I'm learning so much. I'm like, what? And I'm like texting her like, what? Ding, 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 ding. So I highly, highly encourage it. So I'll turn it back over to Dr. Carmen to read an excerpt.
All right. So I was going back and forth on what insert I wanted to read. And so I thought about what DeMarcus' topic is going to be, what Sonia's topic is going to be, Tamika's topic is going to be. And I was like, I think I'm going to switch up. So I'm just going to read a little piece of this, and then it's going to flow into why it's so important on DeMarcus' topic. All right. It says, by the time in 2014, I was attempting to fire my defense attorneys. I sent a letter to them and the courts, not understanding that I had to file a motion and then go to court. It was a mess. I had to show up for a hearing requesting to remove legal counsel in front of a magistrate judge. When I sent the letter to request the removal of counsel, the court had a strange white attorney, not sure of the name, called me several times. I told him that I was not interested in his services and that I did not know who he was. On the day of court, the judge was trying to convince me to take the court-appointed attorney, and I refused. The judge told me that I was facing 360 plus months in jail and I needed legal counsel because the charges were serious. I told the judge that the attorneys that I had was trying to convince me to take a plea and that I was not going to take a plea. The judge asked the attorneys, including the attorney that was calling me, to approach the bench. My old attorneys told the judge that I had mental health issues and that I needed to be committed to a mental health hospital and that he did not recognize me based on my actions. The judge stated that there was not enough evidence to prove that I needed to be sent to a mental health hospital. Again, I told the judge that they were trying to harass me into taking a plea under duress and coercion. The judge asked for a recess. I was sitting at the table in the courtroom and both attorneys were trying to talk to me, mainly Bill. Bill was the white attorney, and I'm not going to say the name of the Black attorney because he's a very high profile attorney in Maryland. But anyway, he stated that he wanted to help me. I did not want to hear what they both were trying to say to me. They were trying to force me to take a plea, and I was under stress, duress, and coercion. At that point, the other attorney, whom I did not know, walked over to the table where I was sitting and where both my attorneys were standing. The white male attorney that wanted my case walked over to me with a stack of papers in his hands, and he said, "That's why you're going to jail, and there's nothing you or anybody else can do about it." He took those thick stack of papers and threw them in my face in the courtroom really hard as my two attorneys watched as little blood dripped down from my nose. When the judge came back in, I asked him if I could approach the bench, and he said yes. I went up to the bench and I told him what happened. The judge asked all three men, "Was this true?" And no one said anything. I was devastated. And even worse, a Black man watched a white man assault me in the courtroom, and he did nothing but stand there and watch. Wow. And it's two things that is so emotional. It's two things that I take from that. The first thing is everyone knows that I'm very transparent about my mental health. I'm very honest. And when you think about Indigenous people, when you think about people of color, Black, brown, tan, and whoever else, but when you think about the 400 years of oppression that we've been through, we all have mental health issues. We just choose not to talk about it. We choose not to admit to it. And so I get people say, "Oh, she crazy, she this." You crazy too. You just don't know it. I know that something's wrong with me because I went and sat in a jail for 3 years for something I did not do. And I fought for my life. And so, I get terribly offended when people make those comments about me and not understanding that this woman is being honest. This woman is being transparent. And maybe I need to go see somebody. But instead, they want to ridicule me, especially people that look like me. And that's really unfortunate. The second thing that I want to say is, to this day, I'm traumatized by that Black attorney who watched that white attorney do that to me and watched the blood drip down from my nose. And he stood there. He stood there. He did not say anything. And it's just really, really unfortunate. And so I still hurt. I still hurt. I think about, and I've said it on the podcast in the past, I helped over 800 and something families from illegal foreclosures by calling the presidents and the vice presidents of the banks saying, turn the houses loose. And not one family was standing outside saying, "Hey, free Carmen, she's innocent." Nobody did look like me. And it's really unfortunate. And so with that said, I want to kick it over to DeMarcus, because when we was talking in our pre-meeting, he brought up this topic. And I was just like, I was so shocked, because it's not only me that see that we have a issue here in our own community, in our own backyard. And I kick it over to DeMarcus. Thank you.
Before we do that, Brother DeMarcus, I just want to send a quick shout out to the people in the YouTube chat. We have Iris in the house. She was in the house early. Thank you. We have LJ. We have Real Talk with Sarah Coleman. And Josh, you got a compliment that Real Talk with Sarah loves your enthusiasm. And then Boom Baby says, hello, my sis Carmen. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for being in the chat with us. And welcome to all of you two family listeners. All right, Brother DeMarcus, come on, let's go in.
Yeah, before I start, I just want to tell Josh, man, it's a very refreshing feeling to just hear someone of the youth or somewhat of the future that's very, very enthusiastic about understanding. I don't like using the word system, but understanding the law, so to speak, understanding the law and using it in a way to help people and allow people to prosper. Me personally, I always been a firm believer ever since I had to go through the journey I had to go through, that certain aspects of the law or certain aspect of life in itself should be a whole study in middle school, transitioning into high school, because these are the early encounters that we may come into with these situations. Sometimes everybody don't have the chance to go to the path of finding a common or finding that interest at a young age. Especially now, it's a little bit more easier because of the social media and stuff. You get in contact with the articles. It's a little bit more attainable to get this information. But the route that you went through, I hope that a lot of people that come behind you follow that same route, because it's beneficial, and it's a lot more beneficial before you even have to use it on your behalf. It's better to already have this information strapped and ready. So when that time comes, you know exactly, because at the end of the day, you never know when that time comes, when your rights can be violated and you don't even know them to even say they've been violated. You never know when that time gonna come. So it's better to be prepared way before it happens. And then once it happens, you will know, I know I don't have to, it's by law, I don't have to do that. No matter what he's saying, I don't have to do that. So I applaud you for that. I applaud you for that. I really, I admire that, actually.
Yeah, let's give him a hand clap. Well deserved.
So like we were speaking in the pre-meeting, my topic, I really wanted to speak on the mistreatment of race within a race. And I really don't want to stick on the racism topic because that's a show within itself. But let's just say culturally speaking, let's say that. Culturally speaking, it seems as like encounters of that Carmen went through in that courtroom. It seems like it is easy for us culturally to sacrifice doing the right thing just for a political gain or just for a financial gain. Like it's no moral principles. And, my question for the topic of the conversation is like, why? Why is it so hard for us to take up for one another? Or why is it so hard for us to sincerely have the correct intentions to really protect one another from being harmed, whether it's verbally, whether it's financially, whether it's physically, however it may be? It seems like when it's time to protect one another, it's easy for us to take that step back. But we will ignorantly pass judgment amongst one another for making bad decision making, when you could have possibly helped that individual instead of passing that judgment. And we done had numerous occasions, we done had numerous small situations that the George Floyd situation shouldn't have had to happen for everybody to say, oh, we need to hit the streets.
Exactly.
Oh, it's getting real out here. Now they killing, like it's been too many small situations in our smaller neighborhoods before it got to a broader scale. And then it started looking like the real sincere intentions get removed out of it because it takes for something to get televised for everyone to get alert. How much stuff happens to individuals that has never touched TV, never made the newspaper, never made the local digest, the Gazette, or whatever your smaller area newspaper is? How much of that stuff happened? How many situations happen when you went into the store and you may have seen a little kid stealing or something? And then he get in trouble for stealing. Well, he probably ain't got no food in the house, but you may have seen that and could have even advised him not to steal, paid for whatever he got going on, or at least helped him out in a little bit. But we will be the same individuals until it happens to us. We will be the same individuals that will be behind the TV, or even on a broader scale will sit on the jury and convict the individual or judge the individual for the bad decision that he made, but will never, or will hesitate to help. If they do help, would give some type of hesitation to help them. Give some type of hesitation to help them. And it just seemed like, when do we come to a point? That's like, for example, everybody know the phrase Southern hospitality. Culturally, we understand that when you go to a Southern state, it's a whole lot of generosity going on. It's kindness. They greeting you with hugs. They greeting you with smiles. So when you go down there, you conform to that because you know culturally that's what's going on. That's how they have adapted. They have taught us how to teach how to act with them. They taught us how to act with them culturally. So no matter where you from, no matter what city or state you from, when you go to these Southern states, you're looking for Southern hospitality. Culturally, it's like, what have we established upon treating each other? What is understood upon how we treat each other? It's like it becomes a gray area. It becomes a gray area. And well, tonight I'm not the baby of the bunch. Josh is. That's a good thing. But I'm gonna speak on behalf of us, since we are the babies of the bunch. My question goes, to y'all. I release the mic.
Well, I guess I gotta be the big mouth. And then I'll sit back. Because just, Dr. Carmen reading that excerpt, just for the black man not stepping up, it chokes me up. And then just in general, and I'll get back on the topic, just men allowing that to happen. Let me be clear. Men allowing that to happen, that blows my mind. It really does. And if anybody has seen Carmen, and it doesn't matter, her size, whether she was tall or whatever, but she's a petite, short woman. And for those men to get on code and use the male code is disgusting.
That's sad.
And then for a black man to get on code and your own code against a black woman, I just have no words for that. But his behavior, the black man I'm speaking of, but all of their behavior was disgusting. But the black man's behavior, we have a huge issue in the black community that everybody wants to brush under the rug, but we have a huge elephant in the room with a pink tutu on. How we treat each other. Mm-hmm. We don't want to talk about it, but we want to march the streets when what is being told to us to march the street about. But yet the way we treat each other when there's murders every day where we lay our head and we're murdering each other. We have some serious issues. So I'm in total agreement with you, and it's across the board. It's whether or not you're in the inner city, and as Dr. Carmen just discussed, she was in a courtroom with the lawyer, educated man, but it's the same mentality, the same behavior. Something is broken spiritually. So I'll shut up.
I think those are all excellent points. Couldn't have said it better myself. I think another thing that causes us, to not be supportive, number one, ego, and number two, fear. And if we can get over those two things, we can definitely change some things. I pass it to Sonia. What you got on it?
Well, okay. So as I was listening to Dr. Carmen about the gentleman or the supposedly gentleman black guy in the courtroom, just like you said, I think it was very egotistic in trying to boost his career. And majority of the times that you see that a lot, they sit back and don't make any judgments on things that they know that would be right. They just sit there and watch because they know if they put their 2 cents in and it's not what the standard is for the political realm, then they won't get picked to do certain things that are of importance, and it won't feed, just like you say, feed their ego. And it's sad. It really is sad about it all. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's way beyond what it really was, because at the end of the day, you have the Black community. We've been torn down for so long, and just trying to raise themselves up to be on the level of these other people. And I really want to speak what I want to say, but I know I have to be careful. It's very difficult. And it starts from home. You teach your young men, how to treat women. You treat your young men. I don't care if it's a lady on the street and you see she's getting beat down. I mean, are you not going to stop and help? That's kind of scary, because if you do stop and help, will you get hurt? Will you get shot? It's just a lot. It's a lot for me it's a lot I want to say, and I know I cannot say. But I really feel bad that Dr. Carmen had to go through that with those attorneys. And I hope that society will start waking up and seeing that we definitely have to come together. Because just like I've said in previous podcasts, it's more of us than it is them. We need to start teaching our young youth how to respect one another, because no one is all the same. We all have our own opinions about a lot of things, but we all still human. We all still have to live together. And with that being said, also, Josh, I'm glad to meet you, and I'm so excited to see a young folk out there trying to, go out there and fight for what's right, but doing it on the right realm and not doing it in a violent environment. So I applaud you for that.
I think that should be our solution. I think we need to spend a lot more time encouraging our youth that really infiltrate that system and stick to their foundation. Don't get in the system and then conform to the system. Right. Because a lot of them conform to the system and they do exactly what that lawyer did. Yep. And like Sonia said, he was probably scared of, if I take up for her, I would not move further in the chain, so I'm just going to say nothing. In Islam, we call that a mute devil. The mute devil is just as bad as the act in itself. You carry the same sin as the one who does the sin when you sit there and don't say nothing about it. Yeah. We got to encourage these kids. There's nothing wrong with a kid growing up wanting to be an athlete, basketball player, football player, but we need to start beautifying the career of being a lawyer. I hate to say this, but beautifying the career of being a state's attorney, beautifying the career of being a judge, beautifying the career of being a politician, and sticking to your moral principles, values, and foundation. Because the more people that we can get into the system that can still think as if they are trying to help, it'll be a lot more easy on combating those individuals that's trying to hurt. It'll be a whole lot. So I think that's we gotta start promote. We gotta push that energy into the air. We gotta push that into the air.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Thanks, Tamika, for reminding us and being respectful of Josh's time. So Josh, we want to just, I know you have a hard stop in a couple minutes, and I just wanted to know if you had any last words for the audience. We have truly, truly enjoyed you coming on, sharing your story with us. And of course, more importantly, we really value and respect that the work that you are doing. It's very, very important. It's much appreciated. And he's just so adorable. That baby's so adorable. Okay, well, that's the auntie in me. But with that said, you have any last words for the audience?
So I don't really have anything planned. I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for having me on. This has been a wonderful conversation. It's been great meeting all of you, and I'm going to listen to the rest of this podcast even after I leave
now.
in the
Don't think
future.
Auntie was rushing you off. I just didn't want to.
No. I'm saying I'm going on YouTube, and I'm going to watch that later because I'm very excited. You guys are having a great conversation, and I'm very glad I was invited onto this podcast. And Carmen, it's always wonderful to see you.
All right, kiss the cats for me, Josh.
Okay,
I will.
We're giving you a round of applause.
Have a good day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Come back and visit us.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. Thanks much. Okay, so just to kind of go back in on what the topic, DeMarcus, I hear what you're saying, that we also have to direct the youth, but I take accountability for my generation. I'm Generation X. And if I'm not showing you an example, if I'm hemming and humming and y'all can't see me shucking and jiving and yes sir, what can I really tell you? There's nothing that I can do or say that you're going to listen to. No direction I can give you because I have not shown it to you. I have not been that example to you. So, some of that responsibility, each generation has to kind of look in the mirror and take inventory on what we have put out, how we have led our lives, and essentially the output that we see the youth going. So yeah, I'm absolutely for what you're saying. Let's get our youth involved. But Gen X, we have to step up our game. Okay. We have to admit the mistakes that we've made. Okay. We have to be honest, and we have to start living what we expect in this world. We have to start living the direction that we're asking the young people to go. So, that's just my 2 cents on that. I'll be quiet.
I don't want to throw your age out there, but what's the Gen X range? What's the range?
Wait a minute. What you see? Now, listen now. I don't want to have to go 2-3 generations.
I'm just saying, what's the range for the X so I can know who to talk to? What audience am I speaking to?
After the millennials and before the baby boomers.
Right.
That's all you get.
Okay,
right. That's all you get.
That's a very specific answer, though. I know where we at.
Okay, you got it.
Y'all know I'm a little slow, so I still don't know where we at. I just know I'm here. And I've been here over half a century. That's all I know.
So the breakdancing generation, does that help?
Right.
The generation that started hip hop. Right.
Okay. Well, that was a little before, because it started much soon. It was about 55 years ago.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true, because they're not really Gen Xers, but yeah.
But I want to say to DeMarcus, what I admire about you is your discipline, your love for Islam, the respect that you have for me. I noticed that right off the back. And your this overprotectiveness that you have of me, and I noticed that, and I appreciate that, because I'm years older than you, and I'm not you old enough to be my son, so I'm not coming on, but it's I appreciate you and what you bring to helping ourselves to transform. And that's why it was so important for you to sit on this board to be an example for the other young men. And of course, not to mention, Tamika been beating me up. We got to get more facilitators. And so for you to be able to mentor the younger, men of color is what I'm excited about in you. And so I applaud you for your discipline, for your respect, for your, you recognizing that helping ourselves to transform is a place that you want to hang your hat and to be an active member. And there's so many other things which we'll talk about in our next show in a couple of weeks about you, that I just respect you so much. And respect goes both ways, so I respect you just as much as you respect me. Thank you.
Thank you. As I was about to say, it's definitely gonna go both ways. I had a fortunate upbringing where I was raised with both mother and father. So my foundation was kind of like balance. My mother told me the loving part, the caring part, how to be nurturing, how to take care of things. And my father told me how to protect and who to protect, how to protect and who to protect, how to maintain, how to go out and do everything that you got to do to protect the house. My father told me those things. So it's certain things that naturally just comes out. It's just certain things just naturally comes out. Like me personally, and this just is me, it's just me. I could not see no woman get home, whether I know them or not, and I don't say or do anything. I couldn't see no woman in bad shape, and that's probably like the biggest flaw that I ever had. Like I had a family member say something to me one time. It's this I don't really like the I guess that's what we can call her, but it's this lady. She's homeless, and she used to live around my neighborhood. But every single day she would wait for me, and every single day I would feed her, because it just hurted me to see her. But it may have been a male that I may have not gave every single day, but she got something every single day. Every single day. It's like it's just natural to me when it comes to the woman to be, to be that type of to have that role, to have that particular role. So, but the respect level I have for each and every one of y'all is that y'all don't have to have the desire or the passion or the drive to do what y'all doing, to speak on the issue that y'all speak on. Y'all don't have to do that. No one is forcing y'all to retain this information, to speak on this information, and to put this information on this platform that so many people can hear. Y'all can be using this time and this opportunity for so many other things. But this is the conversation that need to be had. These are the things that the people need to be enlightened about, because beneath all of the glitz and glamour of social media, the pictures of the trips, the pictures of the restaurant, the food that people eating, it's a lot of real life events that's going on that's either affecting people and they don't know it, or it's directly affecting them and they don't want to say it. They don't want to say it. And that's why when we talked and you was like, you want to join the board, I said, what's the board about? You said, no, I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to send you the information. You're going to read it. You're going to research it. You're going to look at it yourself. And then you come back to me and see what you want to do. That alone, like, hey, she what? Sure, why not? You know what I'm saying? I read that whole page and looked at both of the two podcasts. I said, now you know what? This is something that's very inspirational. It's just an honor to even just be included in something like this. Like, this is an inspirational situation. This time last year, I was sitting in a jail cell trying to figure out how I was going to get out of jail.
Wow.
This time last year, I was sitting in the jail cell, sentenced to life in prison, sitting on my bunk watching the news.
Wow. And next, in a couple weeks, fam, I think we'll be back on the 26th for a podcast. Brother DeMarcus, he's going to share his story with us. Ooh, I haven't even heard it yet. So definitely check us out. But you know what? You said something that sparked something. It's interesting to me that you said, that's the way I was raised. I was raised to pretty much, and I'm paraphrasing, I was raised to, if I see a woman in trouble, help a woman. I was raised with my mother and my father. Do you think because you had your dad around, you have that protective instinct in you?
Absolutely. I give him. Oh, of course, I will get into this in a couple of weeks, but of course, my father had passed away a couple of years ago. But I can give him the full credit of that. Even times when it's like how he used to sit down and talk to me and the things he used to talk to me about. It's like he instilled in me some type of. He just brought out some type of innate nature in me that it just know when to step in. It just know when to intervene in something. And I just give that completely to him. It's like he gave me a sense of confidence to know when I'm doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And honor and respect to your father, who's an ancestor now. So
Yep.
honor and respect to him. You have a great son.
Yeah, he gave me that sense of, and I'll tell it next time.
Okay. Yeah, because we're going to get into that in 2 weeks. So get ready, fam. So and thank you for that, Brother DeMarcus. So does any of the other sisters, you all have any more to put on what Brother DeMarcus is saying?
I think.
Applaud.
Oh, go ahead, Sonia.
You go ahead.
You got it, sis. You got it.
No, I just applaud that, he does see that, because it's not these kids' fault that they don't know, because we're not setting the example. And even if you're in a 1-parent home or 2-parent home, I mean, you took that role of saying, okay, I'm going to have this child. This is my responsibility. So you have to, for me, I had to stop what I wanted to do because I chose to have that child and start setting examples for them and do it to the best of my ability. So I do understand that. And I can tell you this, every last one of my kids are very overprotective. It's crazy. But is all I didn't want to put a fear in them in regards to that. I wanted them to understand that life is not going to be easy. But at the same time, you can talk all you want until they blow in the face. It's all about showing the example, setting that example, showing them that if this happens, this is what's going to happen. And I tried to do my best to walk in those shoes so they can follow suit. And I can guarantee you I have at least 2 of them out of the bunch that act, a true Johnson. I can tell you that much. Very hardworking, inspirational, wants to achieve to the highest level. And I'm very proud of her. And that's my oldest daughter. I mean, she's on it like white on rice. And you can't tell her nothing because she had already seen it by the examples of myself and my siblings and showing that, it's nothing wrong with being a powerful woman. Do what you have to do, because at the end of the day, everybody thinks that it's, well, I need this man beside me to strengthen who I am. And you really don't. It's within you. But if you're not setting an example for your children, they won't know. So they are going to look for outside influences, and so I'm really excited about hearing about your story when we meet next time. And I'm pushing it over to you, Tamika.
Well, I don't have anything else to add that y'all haven't already said perfectly. So I'm going to pass it over to the podcast host for our next segment.
Okay. All right. So thank you, Brother DeMarcus. So we're getting ready for in 2 weeks, I want to say on the 26th. So you all make sure that you join us. It's going to be very, very powerful. I've her just a little snippet, so I don't want him to tell me. I have my little clinics together. We stayed with some clinics on this podcast, but that's okay. It's all good.
So is that September 26th or September 19th? Which one is it?
What did we say? I can't bring up my notes because.
Okay, what I don't think it was the 5th or because the 5th is a holiday, and I
Okay.
don't think it was the 12th.
It's the 12th.
Oh,
It
is
was the 12th.
Okay. All right. Okay. So yeah, we'll be back. Brother DeMarcus will be telling his story. So with that said, I think Tamika, we can move into your topic. So how'd you want to do it? Do you want to just read the article or you want to share the screen?
No need. It's not a lot.
Okay.
That's why I'm trying to get this water.
Okay. No worries. So while she's doing that, just a reminder to the fam, do your me, sis. Go on mute, do your me, So just what I said, just as a reminder to the fam, the book is out, Pretense of Justice. It's out. Sis Carmen worked hard on that. So when y'all didn't see us doing podcasts, our live shows, she was head down doing the editing. And it was very, very well worth it. I'm telling you, it flows really well. You can give this book to high schoolers and they'll be able to follow it. Okay. It's actually literally it's really a movie script, but I'm just saying. So it is out. You can pick it up on Amazon. You can get the hard copy in color. You can get the hard copy in black and white, and then we also have it in paperback. Now, all proceeds from the sale of the book goes to the nonprofit organization Helping Ourselves to Transform. Okay. And so I also encourage you all, and the link to the organization is in the description of this particular live podcast. I also encourage you to go to the website and check out all of the wonderful work that Helping Ourselves to Transform is doing as well. Okay. All right, Miss Tamika, you ready, lady?
I am.
Okay.
I just dropped the link to the article in the chat in case anyone wants to read the full thing. Chase Gaming 1 is my son, in case anyone's wondering. So I was going to talk about, the feds and the whole situation with Donald Trump. And something came across my screen yesterday when I was going to bed. And so I was like, you know what? Let me change it up, because this is important. I'm not saying that his situation isn't important, but I'm just going to go ahead and start reading a little bit of the article. Then if we want to talk about, what's going on with Trump card, we can do that later. But this will be pretty quick. So the title of the article is Bureau of Prisons Director Carvajal leaves behind a tainted legacy void of accountability. And this is coming from Walter Pavlo, contributor. I'm going to scroll down because I don't really like too much of the opinions. I'm going to talk specifically about what Senator John Ossoff said. So I'll read the first paragraph. It says, there are a few things that can unite Republicans and Democrats, except for their mutual disdain of the Federal Bureau of Prisons. The U.S. Senate's Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations held a hearing on July 26, chaired by Senator John Ossoff, a Democrat from Georgia, who grilled outgoing BOP Director Michael Carvajal about the failings throughout the agency. While the hearing was focused on the corruption and abuses at USP Atlanta, USP is short for U.S. Penitentiary, it was a condemnation of an agency in crisis. Now, they're saying that it's in crisis. What does that mean? I'm going to scroll down and read to you guys what Ossoff read, a letter that was sent to the BOP. So someone's advocating That's the key. Ossoff read a letter that was sent to the BOP from a chief judge in the Northern District of Georgia about USP Atlanta. Quote, the improper medical response represents gross indifference to preserving life and violates inmates' constitutional rights. There's rats in the building, roaches in the food, poor nutrition, lack of access to hygiene products, lack of access to medical care, including prescription medication, a month of 24-hour solitary confinement with only a Bible for entertainment or reading, a week with only a paper jumpsuit and paper blankets for an inmate on suicide watch without mental health treatment or medication. Ossoff went on to say, we've got serious problems in this bureaucracy if this was not brought to your attention. Carvajal insisted that it was a regional director who should have stepped up to address the issues in Atlanta, not him. I'm going to repeat that part. Carvajal insisted that it was a regional director who should have stepped up to address the issues, not him. Carvajal said a major problem facing the BOP is that it lacks funding to repair and upgrade institutions across the country. Blinking 100 billion times, they got money. The current backlog of major modernization and repair projects throughout the Bureau is approximately $2 billion. However, over the last 10 years, the Bureau has received an average of $95 million annually to address these projects, Carvajal said. Despite these funding problems, it did not excuse the levels of corruption and the constitutional violations that plague the Bureau of Prisons. It goes on to read more, but you guys get my gist. What y'all think about that article?
You know, I know it's the truth. You know, it's so funny. You know, the taxpayer is the one that puts the bill for the prison system. And then someone on the other end gets the residuals, and that's really unfortunate. So you'll hear like taxpayers, they'll say stuff like, well, you know, you got 3 meals and a cot and you comfortably, you know, laying back in, you know, prison, jail, camper cage, when they really don't understand that it's really not like that. And as far as I'm concerned, who should be held responsible is the person that the person at the top of the BOP should be held responsible. That's number one. And number two, the community or people in America, taxpayers need to ask more questions on why things are happening the way that it's happening behind the walls, because it's not what people actually think. There's only a few of us that come out from behind the wall and are willing to talk about the horrors of what's really happening. You know, I remember being on suicide watch and they had me in something called a Bam Bam suit, and I was so small, it kept falling off. So I was pretty much in this cold metal room, freezing to death. And, you know, the abuse is just, is in 2022 is still happening, and no one's being held accountable. Everybody's pointing a finger, and you know, the whole system needs to be revamped. But why should it be revamped when it's working perfectly well for so many people that are getting billions of dollars from this system? And my heart is really saddened by this article, but it also, you know, brings truth and light to what me and a few others are, you know, coming from behind the wall that are willing to talk about. DeMarcus, what's your thought?
I was getting ready to say, I know, like, from a personal experience, I remember in 2013, I was in a jail, North Branch Correctional Institution in Cumberland, Maryland. We was locked down from, I'm gonna say from March till about November straight. We didn't come out the cell. We didn't get no shower. We didn't get no phone call for at least about, I'm gonna say for like 45 days. They really wasn't feeding you. They was giving you cold food, like the food was actually frozen, or they making you a brown empty bag with an empty milk carton to put it in your slap for the camera to see and make it seem like they feeding you when there's really nothing in the bag.
Oh my goodness.
There's really nothing in the bag. They would it's a paper that you can file to make complaints against the administration. It's called a
BP 9, 10, and 11 or something like that. Well, I know on the Fed side it's called BP.
Right, and the Feds is that. In the state of Maryland, it's an ARP, Administrative Remedy Procedure.
Mm-hmm.
It had been times when the lieutenants of the jail have come on a tier, call everybody to the door. Everybody listen up, come to your windows, cut your TVs off, cut everything off, come to the window, make sure y'all can hear this. And had every single ARP that was written against him in his hand and said, I don't know why y'all keep writing these, they not leaving the jail. Ripped them up on the tier and then called a worker out to sweep them up and put it up. We was on the news in 2013 because a convict, because I don't like using the word inmate, a convict actually wrote a letter on a piece of tissue because we couldn't go to commissary, couldn't get no envelopes, couldn't get no stamps. They really wasn't even taking your mail out. He wrote a letter on a piece of tissue, folded it up and taped it in a paper towel, wrote the address to NBC4 News, and gave it to another officer to take and put in a box. And they put it in a box, it got to the news, and it actually got on the news. 2 days after the jail was on the news, the warden individually called everybody, the warden, assistant warden, chief security, individually called everybody out their cell out of the whole jail, 1,400 some people. He made a meet with them individually. What can we do for y'all to leave us alone and we can leave y'all alone? That's just how that went. But the brutality of it, man, I done seen so much abuse from officers that it's like it's just get unreported. Like it's just unheard of. And like you said, the taxpayers are paying their money, but what are you actually paying your money for? You paying your money for the police to make somebody, take them around the corner and beat them up, handcuff them, hog time behind his back, beat them up, and then report it as if he assaulted an officer. Like it's so much crazy stuff. And then in hindsight, you have people that look at it like, well, they deserve it. So it's like, what is it to talk about?
But we're all a human. Exactly. No one deserves that, even if someone does something bad. Exactly. And the worst thing you can think of bad. Exactly. And that does not give anybody the right to do so much harm to anyone else. I mean, at the end of the day, if somebody was executed because someone executed a family member, I guarantee you that person's still going to have that feeling of I didn't get that satisfaction.
Right.
So, right. And then they're getting so much of our taxpayer money, but majority of the families who have family in these prisons, they spend thousands upon thousands of dollars funding their own family member in there to make sure they have something to eat from the commissary because the food that they're serving them is disgusting, or different things that they need. And it's like almost 10 times more the amount it is if they were outside buying it for themselves. I mean, it makes it no noodle, different.
A 17-cent noodle is $1.25.
Yeah, and it's just crazy. It's bad.
And then the jail I was in, the jail was so crazy where if you are a cook in that jail and you try to actually make the food edible, they will fire you. If you use salt, pepper, or anything like that, you will get fired from the kitchen. You don't use none of that. Put water in there, some heat, and then put it on the tray.
Wow.
They will fire you. You will lose your job if you try to add pepper to somebody's greens. If you add pepper to their greens, you will get fired. Salt and pepper. Who gonna eat greens without salt and pepper? Come on, be for real. You will lose your job. For real, you will lose your job. You put any sauce on that chicken, you was fired.
Right. I mean,
I just want Oh, go ahead, Miss Sonia.
No, I'm fine.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that there was a committee hearing. That article was coming from that committee hearing. It was over a 2-hour hearing, and I stayed up listening to it last night. It was crazy, but it was beautiful to hear it being talked about. My suggestion is people need to send their letters to the senators. John Ossoff, he might be the senator for Georgia, but he sits on the committee for the Department of Homeland Security. So Rand Paul is another one. So he's you got your Democrat over there, you got your Republican over here, and they're working together. So I think that we have to advocate for ourselves, and instead of giving it to middle management, we're gonna have to start thinking a little bit more strategically to get the message across. And one of the things that they spoke about during this hearing, those were pre-trial. Those people who had those conditions were pre-trial. They hadn't even been convicted yet. Talk about duress. That's extreme duress to have them in those conditions before pre-trial. I mean, before they even get a chance before the judge.
I'm gonna tell you something that's close to even worse than that. A few years ago, when the situation happened in Baltimore City Jail, when they shut Baltimore City Jail down, do y'all remember that? They had a big little situation. They shut the jail down. They actually moved the pretrial people out of Baltimore City Jail and brought them in the system. And some of them went to maximum security prisons, the way if an individual haven't even been to trial, he could have been going to trial or got locked up for petty theft. He was in a cell with somebody with double life. And the one dude actually got hurt. He got stabbed 24 times.
Goodness.
Now, I don't know if you all remember, but Atlanta had problems with their pretrial years ago. This it may be going close to 10 years now, where they had they was in trouble with the feds because what was happening is they had people sitting in jail that had not been in front of the judge for over a year. And in some cases, 2 years, where they literally got lost in the system. So it's always been problems with Atlanta systems, and how they're able to still get away with that is just beyond me. So it just kind of triggered Tamika when you said that was pre-trial. Okay. Wow.
You on mute,
You're on
Tamika.
mute.
Yeah, they haven't gotten any better, and they're calling it the Atlanta way. So the people who actually work in these systems, they call it the Atlanta way. Like, this is how we do it. And nothing against, the state prisons aren't any better. The county jails aren't that much better either. They do hold people without giving them proper due process.
I could be straight up innocent.
Yeah.
It don't matter.
It don't matter. It doesn't.
What if I go in there for something trafficky?
You may not get out on bond. They may hold you without bond because you threatened your neighbor a year ago, and the neighbor is still scared of you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the neighbor lying.
Yep.
Wow.
You see it in Courtwatch every day.
And that's sad.
Yeah.
And I know that the BOP is privatized. So they're making money, like, not only being privatized, getting money from the taxpayers, but when you have to make video phone calls to your family members, they're making money off of that. They're making money. I mean, it's just crazy. And it's our issue because us as American, we don't know what they are doing. We are accepting anything that they put in front of us, that it's okay. And I was just reading an article the other day about how, matter of fact, it was yesterday, we're spending almost 50% of our income on some sort of tax. And this is what our taxpayer money is paying for. And yet we're not voicing our opinions. I mean, we send these people to Congress and they're not doing anything that we were requesting them to do. We just think, okay, well, we'll just vote them in and let them go ahead and do their thing. We can continue on with our lives, not knowing that they coming out billionaires and millionaires when they went in was making $50,000 a year. What the hell are they doing with the money?
Yeah.
What are they doing with the money?
Yeah, you bring up a good point. And, when you all were talking about the amount of money for commissary, we actually did a Pretense of Justice news update. And we went into the specific numbers of what those vendors are making.
Yes.
And folks, we're talking they have built multi-million-dollar businesses. It's big business for those vendors to get into those facilities, and for the phone calls and for commissary. My mouth about dropped. And here's the kicker. They're not even taking no mom and pop. So let's say I start up a business. I'm a small business owner and I want to, supply one of the facilities commissary for snacks. I don't even get that privilege of getting that contract. It's a handful of companies. It's only 3 or 4 across the country. They're making money hand over fist. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brother DeMarcus.
Now I'm about to say, what's his name? Bob Barker. His name Bob Barker. I forgot. He had a large supply in the prison system. He had shoes, soap, toothpaste, toothbrush, jeans, shirt. He had a large. Keefe got the phone calls. They got tablets now. They got the commissary. Keefe got everything.
Wow.
And then not to mention, a lot of those commissaries are 501c3s. So
what? So they're not paying no taxes.
I didn't even know that.
That's a hustle beyond a hustle.
It's all a hustle at the end of the day, especially it's all a hustle. But I want to ask Sonia. So Sonia, when Miss Tamika was reading the article and some of the disgusting things that was in the article, how did you feel like a couple of times when I called home because I was jumped by guards and all of that kind of stuff? Like, because I wasn't there, so I don't know, but how did you guys feel about that?
It was very overwhelming. It was very overwhelming because for me, you'll call and be very upset, and then it rubs back on me, and I'm like, okay, call me back, and I'm on the phone calling the warden. The warden knew my voice and knew my first name. Right. I would call, look, this is what's going on. You need to go and find out what's going on. I am about to call the senator. I'm about to call this person, about to call that person. And next, he'll end up calling me back. Okay, well, I'm checking into this and I'll call you back. I would call these, I didn't care. I would call them every single day, every day, because a lot of people are getting killed in these prisons because they're not checking up on their family members. And they figure, so if they don't care, it ain't no different than a nursing home. If they don't care about them, I ain't gonna care about them.
Right.
And I'm telling you, all she had to do is pick up the phone and call me. And I'm on the phone with the warden. I'm calling my local senator that's there. I'm anybody that will listen to me to get something done. And it was very difficult. It was very emotional because it's like, when you're out and you're doing what you want to do, and you have control over where you want to go and how you go. Well, it was like I was more so in prison myself with her because I couldn't go in and save her. I didn't have access to that key to say, okay, come on, let's go, and it was very difficult, and it was very hard on our family, and not to mention, it kind of backfired onto my kids, because it was stressful. Yeah. But, like I said, if family members don't pick up the phone and call and check on their loved ones, these are the things that happen. And they figure they can do whatever they want to you. Ain't nobody gonna come and rescue you. But we did what we had to do.
How did that?
Got everything done we could think of to get her out of there.
How do it? I know it's been times when she called home and mention to you some of the things that she went through or was going through. And there'd been times you called up there when they tried to make it seem like she was lying. Like, how did that feel? Because I know that's a very hurtful feeling. Your family.
Well, I used to always threaten them.
You got to.
I used to always threaten them. I ain't gonna lie. I'm like, look, I need to speak to someone ASAP. I am about to get on the phone with such and such, and have them give you guys a call. Blah 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 blah. So I mean, I even called the one of the head boards, people on the board of the BOP, you know, and we've sent letters to them. I'm like, y'all need to give me a call within 5 business days, or this is going to happen. Blah blah. You know, you had to use the same tactics that they try to use on others, because if you didn't, they would take advantage of you. Right. And you got so many people out here who does that to you. And you got to stand up for yourself. Right. You know, even when your family members are in there, they don't really have that ability to do that. And with that being said, if you got someone on the outside that's going to stand up and be your voice as much as possible and to aggravate the situation, they would be ready for you to get the hell out of there anyway. Yeah. They're like, we're done with that. It's just too much drama.
Yeah, when they made that, former President Clinton, he signed into law the Prison Litigation Reform Act, which is under the BOP. It may be called something else under the state, DeMarcus. But when he signed that into law, it made it very difficult for loved ones that are behind the wall to do BP 9s, 10s, 11s, and 12s, to report abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, little to no medical abuse, no mental health treatment. It made it literally difficult to get some type of remedy. And then they all stick together. And so it's like, it's just little old you against all of them. And so it explained why, a couple of times I was jumped by men guards and the things that I went through, because I wouldn't stop. Like, I had to stand up for myself. I couldn't, I was going to I was going to fall on my own sword. And I was going to fight to the end for me and the other women that was in there. And they got me quickly up out of there.
And if they didn't listen, I will pick up that phone and call the attorney. Look, you need to call and figure out what's going on, blah, blah, blah. He'll pick up the phone and call me. We'd be on 3-way sometimes. I mean, like I said, it's so many people out there who just don't have that support system. And that's how a lot of people get taken advantage of.
And it's like,
so family members got to stick by, no matter what the circumstance is. You got to stick by your family members, especially when they're behind there, because a lot of times people come out of there and don't have the courage to tell people what they've been through. Right. Yeah. The abuse that they've been through. And it's sad, because just like I said, that's no different if you're putting your child in a daycare, or you're putting your elderly parent in a nursing home, and you expect, not saying that, okay, people probably say, well, it's not totally different. It's not different, because you're a human. We're all human, and people make mistakes. The kind of abuse that goes on behind them walls is unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. No matter what you've done and what you have been put in jail for, you're not getting the support you need when it comes down to mental health. I mean, a lot of those people who are behind bars are mentally disturbed, right, and they're not getting the treatment that they need. Okay, well, we'll let you stay here for 2 or 3 years and put you back on the street. You still haven't gotten the help that you needed. And now with this pandemic thing, and I'm sorry to say it, it's more and more mental unstable people out here. And no one is making any efforts to get these people help. So it's a scary situation right now. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. Yesterday, a little boy who was 21 years old or 19 years old was in the store minding his business and got stabbed to death. And he was one of my daughter's classmates. Oh gosh. And I had went out to go to get her something to eat. I literally was shaking in my boots. And it was not because of the little boy. It was the fact that I'm riding down the road. Anybody can take a gun and start shooting at you because that's how bad it has gotten, at least where I'm at. And it's scary. It really is. I mean, just from randomly just doing nothing. And I know I'm jumping over the subject, but I just had to put that out there.
You're on mute, Queen.
Every time you're not jumping over the subject, Miss Anya, it's a real thing that's happening, and it ties into the mental health. You don't have to be like in jail to be suffering from PTSD. It's happening in your own neighborhood. You're suffering from PTSD right now. It comes in all different ways. So sorry to hear about that, about your daughter's classmate.
That's like the fourth one.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, I mean, is it like a death wish for your own, all these, the kids that was in school with you? I'm confused. Yeah. And it's sad.
As a mother, it makes you scared to send children out into the world. Like,
I literally was shaking I'm not gonna lie, I was literally shaking and just looking around, and I'm like, okay, I'm not coming back out after dark for a while because it made me very nervous. And we had two random, just, what do you call that thing where people shoot at you for no reason at all? It was riding down the street and just started shooting at these people for no reason. Road rage. Two road rages down the street from where I live. And I live in a probably nice neighborhood. And they just don't care. It don't matter where you are. These people are suffering from this mental instability that we've been going through for the last several years. It's crazy. A guy just stabbed his mother 10 times because she said something about his pets.
His what?
Because he said something, she said something to him about he couldn't have his pets there. And he stabbed his mother almost 15 times.
Oh my God.
And that was, 2 mothers just got stabbed in our area in the last 2 weeks. I mean, for no reason at all. I'm telling you, the story, it was horrific. So we got to do better. We got to these mental, these doctors that supposedly got all these degrees, they need to start stepping in. They see it and no one is doing anything about it. And it's scary. He's supposed to be our leaders.
What'd you say, DeMarcus?
I said they investing all the money in the prison system. They're not putting no money into helping anybody with mental health issues, or they don't. I don't even think they really
drug addiction, because those programs got cut.
Yeah.
That's why I'm about to go with it.
Yeah,
they got to invest that money into that. They invest. The prison system by itself makes billions of dollars by itself. They're not putting none of that money back into actually rehabilitating nobody or cultivating nobody upon nothing good.
Wow.
Yeah, the doctors are the same ones who were prescribing Adderall, which is amphetamine. Yeah. Now there's a huge methamphetamine problem. In that report, they talked about the methamphetamines being at the jail. They're getting inside the jail somehow. It's just sad, but I yield. I know we had to talk about something else, so I'm going to pass the mic back to the podcast host.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to like scramble, like, okay, we need to bring this back upbeat for the fam. I know we're closing out now, so I'm going to pass it back to Dr. Carmen to kind of close out the show, and we'll give each one of our hosts an opportunity to give some last words to leave the family with some positivity. So I'll pass it back to Sis Carmen.
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking about just this, this conversation that Sister Tamika from this article. And a couple of months ago, so of course everybody know, per the book, I'm going through a breakup. So I wasn't answering my phone, so my little sister Karen had kept calling me, and I wouldn't answer the phone. I'm like, I'm trying to deal with whatever I'm dealing with, and still, work and whatever, blah blah blah. So she sent me this text. I'm making a point. She sent me this text, and she said, if you don't answer the phone, I'm going to call the cops so they can do a wellness check on you. So I quickly called her back and I'm like, yo, I'm dealing with something right now, dealing with a breakup. I'm fine. But do you understand if you call the cops to do a wellness check on me, I'm going to end up in jail. Are you aware that this is what normally happens? Number one. And then the other thing is a lot of hospitals, people are going to hospitals to seek help, and the cops are being called on them, and they are literally being taken out to hospitals and taken to jail. And it just blows my mind. I'm trying to figure out, okay, what is really going on here? And I just wanted to just share that, because y'all know I'm always transparent about, who I am, what I am. I speak the truth, and the ugly, the great, the amazing, and the sad parts about it. But, you got to be careful when you do wellness checks, and you got to be careful when you send your loved ones to the hospital, because it could turn out so wrong. So I just wanted to share that, and I pass that to whoever want to pick up from there.
Piggyback on that one real quick. And that was a big story here where I live. A woman who was suffering from some type of mental breakdown, and they were taking her to a local hospital. She was flipping out, kicking and screaming and carrying on. She kind of needs somebody in the private area, one of the orderlies there. And the guy ended up dying a couple of days later from his injuries. So guess where she ended up at?
Jail.
A woman with mental issues ended up in jail because they didn't know how to deal with the issue at hand. And the guy ended up dying. And it's weird. I'm like, I'm confused. What she must have really just packed a punch on him. But that's what happened. So now she's in jail waiting pre-trial.
Well, when you get like schizophrenia and stuff like that, that's a little like psychotic type mental health. I don't have anything like that. But when you have like psychotic type things wrong with you mentally, that's a whole different type of situation. And when you're not on the right mental health meds, it could trigger the opposite of what it's supposed to do. Yeah.
Wow. So, okay. All right, team. I know we're like a couple minutes over, so we're going to just go for the last word. So I'll just go around. So Brother DeMarcus, do you have any last words?
Just that, somewhere down the line, us as a people, we gotta find the middle course. We can't go to the two extremes and how we deal or handle a thing. We can't be too harsh or too lax neither. We just gotta find that middle course so we can just prosper as a people.
Amen.
Indeed. Okay. Tamika, you have any last words?
I would just say, at the end of the day, there's a new day tomorrow. It's not the end of the world. It's okay. Everybody has a story. It's okay to share it. It's okay to be upset. It's okay. Like, we have emotions, but don't let it carry over into the next day and destroy you. A lot of people are dealing with a lot of things, and we got to clear our mind and have a clear level head in order to tackle the things of the day. So I know this was kind of heavy, but we have tomorrow. So hopefully tomorrow will be a little bit lighter. Let's just keep working towards the goal.
Indeed.
And I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening at the Pretense of Justice, and meet us back here on September the 12th at 7:30. And we look forward to having you. And don't forget, grab a copy of my book, The Pretense of Justice. All proceeds go to helping ourselves to transform. And as usual, I want to give a shout out to Life After Release, Harriet's Wildest Dreams, Ida Be Free, CERN, Out for Justice, and some of the other amazing organizations. And most importantly, before we hang up, I want to give a shout out to Miss Topeka Sam, Dr. Topeka Sam, which is one of my closest mentors. And she is helping a group of us women fight to get a remission with the Department of Justice. And with that remission, we have what do you call it? A signature, what do you call it, going around?
Petition.
A petition going around. And we ask that everyone please sign that petition for a remission. This remission is for all of us women. We have restitution. So we did time. Some of us are innocent, some of us are guilty, but at the end of the day, we are still serving time with this restitution. It has literally stopped our lives. And I just want to, again, just give thanks for Dr. Topeka Sam for taking the time out of her busy day, Dr. Jamila Davis, and also Miss Elise Roper for organizing everything last week. We was down at the Department of Justice. We had a 2.5-day event, and we met with some attorneys. We met with the DOJ. We talked about legislation. It was very productive. And at the end of the day, we are women that are all colors, brown, black, tan, white, and we're trying to be free. And so I end with that.
Indeed.
Thank you, guys.
Don't want to leave out Sis Sonia. You have any last words?
I have the last word.
Yeah, I didn't want to leave you out.
What? You wasn't leaving me out.
Okay, we good. Okay.
I'll just give you a shout out. Peace, love, and soul.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. We're going to rock out with a little bit of music.